Welcome back to the Kevin Blakicki YouTube channel. The Mets are 2-0 on the season after knocking off the Pirates 4-2 in 11 innings thanks to a walk-off 3-run home run by Luis Robert Jr. Thank you for watching this video and tuning in. And this was quite a nerve-wracking game. I will be honest with you, it got the second screen experience. It was relegated to my phone because I was glued to South Carolina, Oklahoma Sweet 16 matchup. However, I was following along with this game, and there was not much going on in the first 9 innings. Great pitching on both sides. There were some opportunities that both teams had, and they weren't able to capitalize. 9 runners left on base for the Mets and a whopping 17 left on base by the Pirates, a complete polar opposite to what we saw in game 1 of this series that was 11-7 in the Mets' favor. This game was scoreless through the first 9 innings. We only started to get runs with the extra runners on base. The Pirates score first, and then Luis Torrens hits a single with the bases loaded and nobody out. Unfortunately, they go station to station. They score 1 run, and they don't do anything after that. Then the Pirates take a 2-1 lead. The Mets already had the ghost runner on second. Jorge Polanco walks. And then, boom, all of a sudden, Luis Robert hits his first home run as a Met, and it is a walk-off home run, his second of his career and his first since 2020. Shout out the man, Lou Bob. Now, this is, again, I didn't really get into this that much in my opening day recap. However, I wasn't really excited going into this season. And I'll explain my thoughts on that. Huge Pete Alonso fan. He set the record for most home runs by a Met in their franchise's history. Brandon Nimmo has been with the team for over a decade. He's been with the team since like 2011, 2012, something like that. He's been a career Met. Just a kid from Wyoming, making it in the big city, the American dream. And, Steve Cohen made a lot of Steve Cohen and David Stearns, you have to include him as well. They made a lot of decisions that didn't go over with the fans, that didn't go over well with the fans. And also Edwin Diaz not re-signing with the Mets. That obviously hurt. It was over a couple $1 million, and it absolutely sucks. Speaking of Edwin Diaz, did you guys see that horrendous narco intro that they had for the Dodgers in his first game? It was no Timmy Trumpet, and they're trying to be us, and it was called corny when the Mets did it. It's even more corny when the Dodgers do it. So he lost all of his aura by going to the Dodgers. That being said, the Mets, I think, did as well as they could, rebuilding this team. And you do have to give them credit. This team was underperforming, and last year was not good enough. Last year was not a good enough season for this Mets team. They needed to make the playoffs, and they were expected to make a run. And for them to fall short the way they did, there had to be major changes. And you got to give them credit. They made major changes. I don't really like them. I don't love the idea of an aging Marcus Semien at second base. I don't love the idea of having your corner infielders be guys who've never played there before in Jorge Polanco and Bo Bichette. I didn't love the idea of having a rookie in right field in Carson Bench. I have not liked the way that this team has handled the development of Brett Baty and Mark Vientos. I think they've absolutely handcuffed them, especially Brett Baty. Brett Baty has done nothing but hit and be consistent, and he deserves to be a third baseman, and he deserves to play every day. And I don't see him with a future on this team, and I want him to be on this team for the long haul. I want him to be the future third baseman. I don't think it should be Bo Bichette, but you also paid Bo Bichette way too much money for him to just be a DH. And so, Beatty's going to either DH, he might get the start at first base, I heard on Sunday. You might flirt with him in the outfield, maybe if he's like super hot and Bichette is super hot and Polanco is super hot and you don't really have a spot for him. Maybe you throw Soto back in right, you give Benj a day off, or maybe you put Benj in center, you give Luis Robert a day off. But I wasn't thrilled with the way that this team and the guys that they got back. I wasn't thrilled with the way that this offseason went. Luis Robert, he's done really well since coming up with the Mets this season, and I haven't been impressed with the last 2 years that he's been playing. He hasn't been really good. He's been rumored to come to the Mets for the last couple of years, and they finally got him. They finally traded for him, and he's been doing well. It's 2 games into the season. I can't really complain. However, people were saying that Luis Robert needed a change of scenery. If you're a type of guy that needs a change of scenery and you're not thriving in your situation that you're currently in, and you're kind of going through the motions, that doesn't make me want you on my baseball team. You're a guy that that's going through the motions. He was struggling because he was on a bad team. It doesn't make me want you. So I would like to refer to this iteration of the Mets as the Pepsi Mets, because when you go to a restaurant and you ask them if they have Coke and they're like, no, but we have Pepsi. Is Pepsi okay? And yeah, Pepsi's fine. It's not Coke, but it's still a good enough soft drink. That's what I think about this Mets team. They had better players and they just get like the knockoff version of them. Luis Robert obviously is an upgrade in center field because we were just deprived of offense from that position last year. And, Devin Williams, he's replacing Edwin Diaz, the best closer in baseball, and he's getting replaced by a guy who had the worst season of his career. Jorge Polanco is replacing the best home run hitter in Mets franchise history, and you're replacing him with a guy who's never played there before. Brett Baty, a super good, young, thriving, budding, talented third baseman, and you're replacing him with a guy who's really good, but he's never played third base before. So, and then you have guys like Tyrone Taylor, who is a backup outfielder, and it's good that he's in that role, but he's not great offensively. And you have guys like Dickie Lovelady and just other guys on this team. That guy Jared Young. These are the types of guys that are on your roster in like the middle of June or July when you're just hammered with injuries and you're just trying to get some at bats or some playing time for some guys to fill in for your better players who are on the injured list. These are not guys that you have in your opening day roster when you're trying to win. Now, granted, AJ Minter is injured, so I would assume that a guy like Dickie Lovelady is not on this team, when Minter is healthy. But, Lovelady wasn't terrible. He did allow the ghost runner to score, but he had no earned runs against him. And you got to give credit to the Mets. The 2 runs that were given up by their pitching staff was giving up in extra innings. So this, it doesn't really count because, they were put on there. So as long as you don't allow the other runners to score and make it into a bigger inning, that's acceptable. And that's how this team was able to win. So, for now, guys like Luis Robert Jr. are doing really well. Bo Bichette had an error early on in the game at third base. He was okay. Jorge Polanco, misplayed a ball, but he was able to recover. Yeah, this is a brand new infield. Obviously you have Marcus Semien, who just won the Gold Glove last year, but this is a new infield. Pretty much, I'll be interested to see how Semien and Lindor have chemistry-wise on double plays. You know, with the exception of Juan Soto and Francisco Lindor, and obviously the catcher position, Francisco Alvarez, this is pretty much an entirely new offense. They had 8 new players play on opening day that weren't on the team last year. So, this is the team that they wanted in the offseason. I'm sure that they would have liked to have a guy like Kyle Tucker or Cody Bellinger in the lineup. That didn't end up working out. I'm sure they would have loved to have kept Pete Alonso. I don't know if they were in as love with Pete Alonso as we were. I'm more okay with Pete Alonso being, let go because he's an older player and, his defense isn't that great. But getting rid of Edwin Diaz, I don't think at all was part of the plan. But they were able to get the airbender, Devin Williams, and he got the job done in his debut. So we'll see. This was a good win for the Mets. This was the first comeback win after trailing after 8 innings in over a year, because they went the entire year last year without winning a game after trailing after 8 innings, and it only took them 2 games to finally achieve that this season. So we'll see how the Mets do the rest of this season and if they're able to sweep the Pirates on Sunday with Nolan McLean on the mound. He had 2 starts for Team USA in the World Baseball Classic, and they didn't go particularly well. But we'll see how he's going to react to playing in front of his home crowd for the first time this season. That does it for this video. If you like it, please like the video. Please drop a comment and tell me how much you like it. Please hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell so you know when I post. And if you want to follow me more, follow me on social media. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at Kevin Bulkicki. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.